Hey guys, what's going on? So this is a very special video that I wanted to make, and it's very near and dear to my heart, as I am a main Blade Dancer player, and I have been ever since the talents were introduced, and obviously before that. It is my only, basically it's my only level 15 DPS card. Enchant Sword, you can argue, is a DPS card as well. But ever since the talents got dropped, I have been playing Blade Dancer in PvP as my main way of climbing the PvP ladder. And I have been doing it ever since it dropped. You can backtrace my channel. It's why most of my gameplay is Blade Dancer. If there was ever a person who knew more about Blade Dancer, it would be me. I have used Floral Frenzy. I've obviously used Blooming Dash to the point where Blade Dancer in my normal speech pattern, it's just called Blooming Dash Blade Dancer. Floral Frenzy is much worse. And I believe that Blooming Dash is much better. And the only problem with there's a lot of problems, and I guess that's since you've read the title, I'm going to talk about all of those problems. I specifically muted my game sound. I did want to put gameplay in the background so that you could watch something, so it's not just a static screen. And I'm going to use I'm going to utilize my second account to read you a bunch of stat lines and comparison models while you watch this gameplay. But before I do that, I'm gonna play. I obviously lost both of these games, and it was insane. It was insane because this is like the most I've ever done with Blade Dancer in PvP because of the Portal Keeper change, and it still doesn't matter. And that is my entire reasoning for making this video to begin with. So I have a level 17 gadget. This is my equipment. I'm using a spear because it has Forest Faction, and I believe that is just more important to have spear as opposed to having everything beyond faction and getting the extra plus 10%. I don't find that the extra plus 10% would matter. You should probably just be using things that are on faction, or things that might have a sub-faction, and just be using better equipment. So technically I should be using a Mage Robe, but this is my equipment setup. This is their setup. And this is the first battle that I'm going to play. It's Demon Hunter, Absorption, Cloak, Stealth. I don't know. I trust that you understand all of the other obvious ones that they would use. Actually, it's strange that they're using Approving Glance. I would use Eternal Gaze, but to each their own, I suppose. I guess if you're merging all the time anyway, you'll eventually get 10 stacks on everything. So in the years of time that I have spent focusing on Blade Dancer and trying to make Blade Dancer good, the things that I have learned a lot of things, and a lot of reasons for why I consider it to be right up there with a Boreas. It has never been meta. It has never been a card that anybody in the community has ever said, oh, you need to nerf Blade Dancer. Nobody has ever said that in the history of this game. It has never been meta. It has never been a top tier card. It has never even kind of reached any of those levels. And then when they added talents, that didn't help it either. And as they keep introducing newer and better legendaries, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. Because every single time they have ever attempted to buff it, it's never mattered. And there are inherent problems with Blade Dancer as opposed to every other unit. When Blade Dancer got talents, it got talents at a time that was very early on when things started getting talents. And so In the same way that they decided to refresh a lot of the commons, epics, and rares in this last patch, they upgraded Priestess, they upgraded Reaper, they upgraded all of these different commons, rares, and epics. They realized that most of those talents, even though refreshing them, it doesn't push it into the meta or anything. Like, you're not going to see Priestess DPS decks, but they are better, and they do more things now. Because when they introduced the talents, yes, it was cool, but it didn't do enough to make them even kind of be used. Because now you see Sharpshooter being used in different ways. It's not just the stun shot. The explosive surprises is actually very good in Mirror Match. Or like Reaper. Reaper can now be a theoretical DPS unit. It doesn't go like too far. It's not too crazy because it's still an epic card and not a legendary, but it definitely does more damage than when they first introduced it and it was supposed to deal damage. So when they created Blade Dancer, there were a lot of restrictions that they placed on the idea of stacks. And for anybody who doesn't understand what stacks are, it's basically a mechanic where when you do something or when something happens, that unit or your units as a whole gain a number. That you gain 1 stack, and then you gain 2 stacks, and then you gain 3 stacks. And with those stacks, you are gaining extra amounts of damage. So with Floral Frenzy, every 20 seconds, the Blade Dancer enters dance mode, retaining the attack speed bonus and giving a flower to another Blade Dancer located diagonally. The Blade Dancer with a flower gains increased damage by 1% up to 50 times. And that is what is most important. It's the idea that it gets 1% up to 50 times, and by 0.6% after that. Which means that it has the ability to climb to 50%, then gain significantly less as you continue to gain more stacks. Now, the fact that it gains stacks is obviously going to put it above a common, epic, and rare, because most common, epics, and rares do not gain stacks. So for instance, the reason why it's better than a Wind Archer is because over the course of the game, you are getting more and more powerful as the game progresses. Whereas a Wind Archer, even if they were both built, they were 2 decks built the exact same way, you could do the normal like Floral Frenzy setup, but instead of having Blade Dancer, you subbed it for Wind Archer. Wind Archer doesn't have any way of gaining more damage over the course of the game, so at a certain point, even if Wind Archer can compete with Blade Dancer early, it will lose the late game because you're not gaining any damage, and the health of the bosses are increasing as the game progresses. So essentially, what Floral Frenzy does, which people argue is the better one, I don't think it is. Essentially, you're getting 1% up to 50 times, so that's 50% and then much less after that. If you compare that to a Demon Hunter, who is obviously one of the best cards right now, if you compare that to a Demon Hunter, the absorption of evil, talent, it gains absorption of evil. When the death of a boss or mini boss will mark a random hunter of the lowest rank. Merging or absorbing every hunter with a mark will distribute 3 marks between the hunters with the highest rank. Damage per mark will increase by 5% after, and after 90 marks, it will increase by 0.5. You're getting 5% for 90 marks. And then it starts getting worse. 5 times 90 is 450%. You get 450%, then it gets weaker. Whereas a Floral Frenzy Blade Dancer will get 50 stacks, or 50%, then it gets weaker. even though Floral Frenzy, all you have to do is sit there, and all of your Blade Dancers gain stacks over the course of time. That over the course of time is also random. With a Demon Hunter, you can activate your main Demon Hunter gaining more stacks. You can merge and absorb. Demon Hunters, and it'll give stacks to your main one. Whenever you kill a boss or mini boss, you're also gaining a stack. Over the course of the game, it is you can gain stacks with a Demon Hunter so quick. The other problem with Floral Frenzy is that it's random. You have no way of choosing what gets stacks, which is why Elegant Parry is so bad. Because the only way Elegant Parry, which is your free cleanse, the only way that works is if something gets activated and then bounces to one of the things that have a debuff, and then you have to wait a period of time, and then it activates randomly again. So you could be in the late game where maybe one or two of your Blade Dancers are at 50 plus stacks, whereas all of the rest of them are at less than 20. And because Blade Dancers are so, like, because you have the ability to get Warlocked or Assassined, if you lose something that has that many stacks, you're just dead. And even if you obtain and keep all of those stacks, you are far less, you are far less beyond what a Demon Hunter can do. When you're at 50%, and then you have to, like, slowly, like, after that, the number becomes much less. At 90 stacks, a Demon Hunter is at 450%. And that's why it just builds and builds on the one thing. Right now, he has a Demon Hunter with 30 stacks. The 30 stacks that he has is his Demon Hunter, that's a level 7, has 150% damage. My current Blooming Dash, I'm at 29 stacks. Blooming Dash gets 1.5 up to 50 times. So 30 times 1.5? I'm at 45% damage. That's the difference. The difference between 1.5 and 5 is insane. The fact that it gets 5% is madness. And that is why Demon Hunter is so good. And that's why Blade Dancer is so bad. And it's literally because this game has become a stack-based game. The reason why Riding Hood is so good. The reason why Genie is so good. Riding Hood has the ability to just summon in a card and then eat it and then gain a stack. And then it also gains, like, area of effect damage, and then it gains speed. You can literally get a level 7 Riding Hood on the field with a Knight Statue, with a Sharpened Spear Knight Statue. Continuously summon in new Sharpened Spear Knight Statues because you're constantly eating things, to where your Knight Statue is constantly getting stacks, and then you're eating it with your Riding Hood, and then your Riding Hood is also getting infinite stacks. The amount of stacks that you get for a Riding Hood, it's 0.4 up to 50, and 0.15 after that. But the ease of how easy it is to get a stack is why it's so good. You see games where they have eaten like 200 units, 300 units, and it's because it's all based on summon in. where all you need to do, there's no waiting. You can just summon in a card that's not a Riding Hood and eat it and get a stack. And then summon in and then eat it and get a stack. And then summon in and eat it and get a stack. And as soon as you get to like a level 7 Riding Hood, that's all you need to do. And then all of your your Riding Hood it just has so many stacks. I just played a game with Genie, and I was able to get 200 stacks over the course of a co-op game. I just used Efreet. I wasn't trying too hard, and it was my first game. I didn't necessarily understand the mechanic of how it worked. I was just trying to figure it out as I was playing the game. And at the end of that game, I got 200 stacks without even thinking. Like, without even, like, efficiently figuring out a specific way. I was just using Harlequins and summoners, and things were blowing up, and I summoned in, and I used a summoner. Like, that's all I was doing. Like, it was just like, here. I just, like, made a deck, and at the end of that game, I had 200 stacks. Blooming Dash Blade Dancer is the better version because you have automatic protection. But the reason why it's so difficult to use is because all of your units have to be the same ranking, so that you can move everything with your Portal Keeper. Being able to move everything with a Portal Keeper, if it had the talent of it, a Portal Keeper can move anything of its rank or below, is why I'm able to stay in this game. I have a level 6 Portal Keeper that has the ability to move literally anything, which means I can utilize all of my growth tiles. I can move any Blade Dancer anywhere, which gives it auto protection. In the sense that if it gets Warlocked, I can move it, and then the Portal Keeper will gain protection. It will obtain protection through Dark Priest and King Pudding. I will basically never be affected by anything. And that's one of the best benefits of running Blooming Dash. But the downside is that you have to run Portal Keeper. And the fact that you have to run Portal Keeper, and Portal Keeper doesn't have talents, is one of the biggest drawbacks for Blooming Dash Blade Dancer being as good as it could be. But the main drawback to why Blade Dancer is not good is simply because of the stack numbers. The stack numbers are so low, and it's so difficult to gain stacks that it just, as the game progresses, and you're playing against a deck like a Demon Hunter, I will get to very late game, but then at some point, I won't be able to keep up with the monster's health. Whereas a Demon Hunter has already far surpassed me. As soon as times 5, what is that, 10 stacks? By 10 stacks, they will already have more than, their one Demon Hunter will already be doing more damage than me. Because 10 times 5 is 50, and that's already 50%. That's how much better Demon Hunter is. And that is why Demon Hunter and Riding Hood and Genie are the top tier cards. The easier it is for you to obtain stacks, the better that card is, because the game is all about damage, and it's all about keeping up with the monster's health. And so a Demon Hunter, his Demon Hunter currently has 125 stacks. So for 90 stacks, he was gaining 5%. And then it's 0.5 after that. This is a lot of math. I'm going to do a lot of math here. 90 times 5 is 450%. But he has 125. 125 minus 90 is 35, and you're getting times 0.5 after that, so that's an additional 17. So it's 400, 450, and 17. He's currently at 4. His one level 7 Demon Hunter is currently dealing 467% damage. I am at 63 stacks, which means that for the first 50 stacks, I'm gaining times 1.5. So I'm getting 75%. Now, you could argue that I'm getting that 75% for all of my Blade Dancers, whereas he's only getting 460% from one guy. And there are a couple of other numbers, obviously. But the main idea, because then he also has Witch, which is also giving him even more damage beyond that 467%. He is also at above 40 merge ranks, so that's also giving him a damage boost. He actively used all of his Dryad, Fairy of Rage Dryad, so that's an additional 50%. And does he have growth tiles? Yeah, and he has growth tiles that go up to 50% as well. All of these things are contributing to his damage, and his one level 120 or 125 stack Demon Hunter is just doing so much damage that it has the ability to just insta-kill, just boss after boss after boss, and just win. And in a damage-based game, where I am not affecting his board at all, and he's not affecting my board at all, and you're just doing a damage race, because that is what most games are going to be. It's just one player trying to out-damage the other player. If you don't have a unit that has the ability to gain stacks as efficiently as any one of these three units, you just lose. It's not even about better playing. It's not even the fact that he has a Zeus. He could have a trainer, and this game would still basically be the same. He could level 7 the one that has 125 stacks. He could level 7 that with Dryads. Like, he doesn't need Zeus to level that up. That's just doing additional things. I believe the temporary crit chance, the increase, and then your attack speed increases, and then you also deal damage, and your attack speed increases. Yeah. You are gaining additional bonuses from Zeus, but he doesn't even really need Zeus. He could be running Trickster, and I would still be put in the same position where I simply can't out-damage a Demon Hunter. And that's literally what this game comes down to. And as much as I play Blade Dancer, and as much as I find creative ways to try to play this deck, and, this is also them, the game, giving me a Portal Keeper talent. The difference between decks, and the reason why decks are good, it's because of specific cards that you can use that no other player can. The package that he is running right now, with Demon Hunter, Demon Hunter is his main DPS card, and then Witch, Harlequin, Dryad, Enchant Sword. Witch, Harlequin, Dryad, Enchant Sword are interchangeable for a lot of different decks, and you just run a DPS card. You can run this package with Riding Hood. You can run it with Genie. With Riding Hood, I believe you would sub out Enchant Sword for Night Statue so that you can run Sharpen Spear. I think that is the better version of that deck. But yeah, most of this package of maxed out legendary support cards, it's being run in every deck. So if you decide to run that, because those are the best support cards. So if you decide to run that, and you just use Blade Dancer instead, you just replace this entire deck, and you just use that, everything becomes equivalent, and you're not gaining anything by doing that, because the Demon Hunter is still going to outdamage you, because it gains stacks better than you. So just saying that, oh, like, why don't you just run Floral Frenzy Blade Dancer, but instead of everything that you're running, run Harley Quinn, Witch, Dryad, Enchant Sword, and run Zeus, and then you'll beat everything. That none of that is unique to you, at which point everything is equivalent. And if assuming everything was equivalent and you were running Zeus and you had all of these you had all of these equipments, right? You still lose because Demon Hunter has a better way of gaining stacks faster than you. Blade Dancer in any form is not great. And unless they change the way that it gets stacks or the speed that it can gain stacks, it'll never be good. And as much as I play Blade Dancer, as much as I like love the card, it's not, it will never be meta unless they change it, unless they fundamentally change the card. There are a couple things that they could do, and I'm going to go into that right now. As soon as I show you this next game, which is me losing against Genie, because Genie also gains just 1 billion stacks. So in that last game, I played Sharpen Spear, and I was trying to do the Riding Hood method of using like 3 Sharpen Spears, using the bounce back for the Sharpen Spear, so that I could get more stacks on the Sharpen Spears and my entire board would be full. And it got like super crazy at the end of that, and I just couldn't, I just kind of like lost it in my brain. I was at 20 billion damage. Like I was like, I don't know what to do. At which point I decided to switch gears. And I thought, what if I just run 1 Sharpen Spear and just scrapper my board and then just try to level 7 everything? Let's see if that will work. Obviously, it doesn't. But now I kind of want to talk about constructively what I think they could do to make Blade Dancer better. 1, give Portal Keeper talents. Portal Keeper is the one card that you have to run if you want to run Blooming Dash, and I do think that it is the better version because you can very efficiently protect your units. With the Floral Frenzy version, you either have to run Elegant Parry, which is very bad. Fencing with Giants is much better, but then that forces you to either have counterspells on your equipment, legendary counterspells, so it activates more efficiently, or run Mermaid. If you run Mermaid, you are not able to run other better heroes that could add to your damage. Gadget is the only hero. Gadget is not good in a number of decks, a large number of decks. Most other heroes are better to run than Gadget. And the reason for this is that most units don't care about all of the squares. Gadget, at its most efficient, is the best if you are utilizing every single square on the board. For instance, if you are running a Dark Inquisitor deck, and you only care about the 1 square that your Dark Inquisitor is on, why would you run Gadget? Most decks run about 4 creatures. The Inquisitor setup. Like, Knight Statue, 4 creatures, you're done. And that's why J is so good. The reason why most people are running J is because J tiles at the 40% attack damage, or I'm sorry, the 40% attack speed, that is a Gadget gold tile that you aren't even guaranteed per game. And let alone that you have to build on in order for that tile to be used. Gadget is the best with Blade Dancer, specifically because you need so many Blade Dancers. I believe you need 7, where it maxes out at 8. But if you have 7, that's reasonably fine as well. But the fact that it is a unit where you need 7 to 8 Blade Dancers on the field means that you need to upgrade 7 to 8 things up to level 7. Whereas a Light Inquisitor deck can run one Sharpened Spear Night Statue and 4 Inquisitors and just level 5 things up. And if you're running Blooming Dash Blade Dancer with 7 Blade Dancers and a Night Statue and a Portal Keeper, you have to level up 9 things to level 7, which is just impossibly difficult, as you'll see here. And this is the best version of what it could potentially be, because I only need to upgrade the one Portal Keeper in order to move anything at any time. The reason why most of the time you'll never run Scrapper is because you will only be able to protect and move Blade Dancers that are equivalent to your Portal Keeper. Which puts you at a severe disadvantage, because then at that point you're trying to level 7 Blade Dancers and a Night Statue and a Portal Keeper off of Dryads, just so that they can all be the same thing all the time. So you level up everything to 2s, and then you level up everything to 3s, and then you level up everything to 4s. And then I have started, without this Portal Keeper talent, I have been able to get to 5 without having a gold Dryad and just having like a regular level 11 Dryad. I've been able to get to like 5, level 5. Like I've been able to pretty consistently get to like level 5 Blade Dancers with like a level 5 Portal Keeper. And that's not good enough when every other deck has the ability to just get to level 7s, because they don't care about moving things in order to function. Once you set up a Night Statue next to your Inquisitors, you don't care about moving them. That's almost the whole point. Once you set up a Demon Hunter on a tile, that's it. That's your setup. But the setup to Blooming Dash Blade Dancer is you need all of your Blade Dancers to be the same level as your Portal Keeper. He is currently at 44 Genie stacks. Damage per charge is times 1.5%. 1.5%, I think infinitely. It'll always be, you're getting 1.5% per charge, forever. Like, that's not changing. So it's not as egregious as a times 5 for a Demon Hunter, but it is times 1.5 forever. 65 times 1.5, all of his, genies already have a 97.5% damage increase. That's not even to account for any of the other bonuses that he's also getting off of the Enchant Sword, off of the 50% on the Dryad, off of Summoner's Gift of the Ancestors, and off of Zeus, and all of his other bonuses. That's not to account for Growth Tile. That's not to account for the Ifrit Fire, giving him bonus damage as well. Just in pure stack damage, he is at 81 now. He just went from 65 to 81. 81, he's already at 121% damage. And that's not even localized. That's not even just one genie. That's all of his genies. He's at 99 stacks right now. In the time that it took me to say all of that, he is now at 148%. Off of a times 1.5 multiplier. The fact that so many units have now come out that have the ability to gain stacks so easily is the main problem with Blade Dancer. And if they changed Blade Dancer, if they changed Floral Frenzy, the mechanic, if they changed it to where you had the ability to choose what gains stacks or where that bouncing starts, right? If you could like touch a Blade Dancer, like it was an activated ability, like you activate it and then you touch a Blade Dancer, right? And then maybe your like your activation has a cooldown, like that would make it better. Blooming Dash, if you had the ability to move any Blade Dancer and get a stack. And so your cooldown becomes like the Portal Keeper 5-second cooldown. If you could just move something, any Blade Dancer, and get a stack every 5 seconds, that would somehow make it better. If the stacks gained, if the stacks had a bigger percentage, times 1% for 50 stacks to just give you 50%. Is insanely low. All you're doing as a Blade Dancer player when you like add Blade Dancers to your board and gain stacks, you are putting your base damage at the base damage of other cards. You're just adding base damage to make it equivalent to the base damage of some other card, and then when that other card gains stacks, they just outpace you just so quickly. Genie is currently at 152 stacks. 152 stacks at a times 1.5 multiplier. He is at 228% damage. I don't know if you've been looking at his board, but it's not even difficult to do any of that. You just summon in, and a Freet's ability makes it, like, it destroys something. And as long as you set up everything around where the the lamp prison is, and you just keep eating, the lamp prison just keeps eating a thing, and you just keep making the unit that's within the lamp prison a genie, you just constantly get stacks. And then summoning in gets you stacks. And then Harley Quinning gets you stacks. And then summoner gets you stacks. Just in the time that it took me to say 152, he's at 171. He's at 256% right now. The only thing that Blade Dancer has over other decks is Gadget and Portal Keeper. Those are the only two things that Blade Dancer specifically uses. They decided to not really upgrade Gadget. My theoretical suggestion was, once your board has all of the regular tiles, every activation beyond that gets you one gold tile. And that definitely isn't a thing. They added damage on activation for Gadget, and that helps you not get screwed in the early game. But beyond that, it doesn't really do anything. And the fact that if every single unit tile became a gold tile, that would severely help you. Because then decks that are using Zeus, and decks that are using Necromancer, and decks that are using other Jay, all of a sudden I feel like they either switch to Gadget or they don't, and then it just becomes a bonus for a Blade Dancer player, because you are using so many tiles. You are using, the fact that you have to build 7 or 8 Blade Dancers, you should be getting the biggest bonus for having to do that. And right now, it's more efficient to use J and build 4 units and build those up than it is to build a board of something else. Even Monk. The reason why Monk is kind of fallen off is because Monk doesn't have the ability to use Gadget either, because it needs to cleanse. It needs to efficiently cleanse. And unless you're running 3 counter spells, Because you'd rather use Equilibrium with the Illumination talent as opposed to Tranquility. And technically, the best version of that deck is the other version. What is it? The Blessing. It's the Blessing. The pro people use the Blessing version because the Blessing version allows you to use all of the other equipments. You can use the Witch. You can use Enchant Sword. You can use all of that more efficiently. And because those are such dominating equipment, it's better to build that version than to build an Equilibrium version where you are forced to use Mermaid. It would be better to use Gadget because obviously you're using all the tiles, but it's more important to be able to protect your board from negative effects unless you were running triple gold counter spells. But so even in saying that like Gadget would be best for Blade Dancer, it's because it has the ability to use all the tiles, and it has a very efficient way of protecting itself in the form of a Portal Keeper. But the fact that Portal Keeper doesn't have talents and Gadget isn't any better than just building 4 tiles on a J tile, that's another reason why Blade Dancer doesn't work. And then, so like there's a lot of things that they could do to fix Blade Dancer, but right now, in its current form, this is why it falls so far behind everything else. Just look at the other stack number percentages and compare them. It is pretty difficult to get to 100 stacks with a Blade Dancer. And he's currently at 273 stacks, which at a times 1.5 multiplier, all of his genies are now dealing 409% damage. If you wonder, if you even question whether or not a unit is good, look at the stack numbers. That's all you need to do. That is currently what makes a unit good. It's how efficiently can you get stacks and what is the multiplier on those stacks. I hope that I don't have high hopes that they'll change Blade Dancer because it feels like they don't care. But as a Blade Dancer like main player, I could obviously have at my current, my current crit rating and everything, I could have had the max Demon Hunter setup, and I could be doing so much better in PvP with my crit percentage if I had a max Demon Hunter. Because if I instead focused on a Demon Hunter build as opposed to a Blade Dancer build, because I got, I maxed out my Blade Dancer, I maxed out my Night Statue, I was trying to max out my Dryad, right? If I instead focused maxing a Demon Hunter, maxing a Witch, maxing a Dryad, as opposed to maxing an Enchant Sword, right? Or maxing an Enchant Sword, and that's fine, and then, I was on my way to maxing out a Dryad, I could be doing just infinite more damage than I currently am. And it feels like when you invest in the wrong unit, it's kind of like trying to win a battle against a Blade Dancer with a Wind Archer. You're not gonna win. And it's not because you're playing bad, it's just you're specifically not gonna win because you are not gaining as many stacks as they can.